Title: Patching Things Up. Written by Ghosts and Posts. You snuggle deeper into the blankets surrounding you, your feet tucked under you as you leaned against the armrest. Your eyes fixated themselves onto the TV as you flipped through the channels with one hand, the other holding a mug of hot chocolate. A sudden knocking at the door caused you to pause your channel surfing and look towards the door, which was a little ways away from the living room. You could see the little rain purring from the window to the right of the door, but spotted nobody. You raised an eyebrow and set your mug down on the side table before standing up, the remote being placed on the armrest. Your socks slid against the wooden floor as you made them, covering your robe against your body to keep warm. You peered out the window and saw a figure, though it was too dark to make out the specifics. You flicked on the porch light. A young man with a chair and purple blotches of skin all over his body, which were being held together by staples, slouched forward, his hands gripping his sides. Blood dripped from it. You let out a gasp. You recognized him as one of the members of the League of Villains, Dabi. Your hand went into the robe pocket and you pulled out your phone, getting ready to dial the cops before a harsh knock stopped you. Your eyes met a bright teal as you stared at his face through the window. His gaze was soft, softer than you'd seen from the pictures on the news. It looked strangely familiar. You slid your phone back and put a hand against the window, tilting your head. What was he doing here? Why your house? His mouth began to move and you made out the words, "Open the door." You shook your head. He frowned. "Please." You bit your lip before reaching for the handle and opening it. Now only a glass door remained between the two of you. You reached out to grab the handle to the glass door and you pulled it open slightly. "What the fuck am I doing?" you thought. Now holding it open wide enough for him to step inside. He's a murderer, a villain, and I'm letting him inside because of some weird nostalgic feeling. God, I'm an idiot. He grabbed the edge of the door and used it as a brace as he leapt inside. He was soaked to the bone, and blood began to drip onto your doormat. "What the hell are you doing here?" you asked, closing the doors behind him. "I don't even know you." Dabi let out a breathy laugh, which quickly devolved into coughing. His eyes held a certain spark to them, and you squinted at him. He shrugged his leather coat off and hung it on the coat rack before kicking his shoe off. "Yes, you do," he replied, now beginning to limp towards your kitchen. "Hey," you said, stomping after him. "I don't know what came over me to let you inside, but you don't get to prance around my house like you own the place." You caught up to him and pulled on his arm to get his attention, as he was now digging through your medicine cabinet. "And I have never met you before in my life." He turned his head to glance at you, flashing you a cocky smile. "Come on, you really don't remember me, princess?" "Princess?" You shot him a glare. "For the last time, I am a knight, not a princess." You stopped, flashing back to a vivid memory. "Okay," he said, his 6-year-old self pointing at your 5-year-old self with a wooden sword. "Now, you go and be the princess, and I'll slay the dragon for you." You shook your head, crossing your chubby arms. "No, I want to be the knight in shining armor." "But then who will be the princess?" You smiled. "You!" He shook his head. "No, I don't wanna." "Okay, then you can be the dragon and I can be the knight, and there can be your pretend princess." You tilted your head, wondering if that would be alright. "How about that?" "Toya?" you suddenly said, your body freezing up as you backed away from the male who was now taking his blood-stained shirt off in the middle of your kitchen. He paused, his arm partially behind his head and his shirt halfway off, and let out a soft chuckle. "It's been a while." Your heart began to race as your eyes fogged up with tears. "I thought you were dead. What the hell are you doing with your life? A villain? Really?" You shook your head, wetness now rolling down your cheeks. "Why, Toya?" He finished pulling his shirt off, revealing the true extent of his scars, and began to dab a cotton ball, doused in rubbing alcohol on what looked to be a bullet wound on the side of his stomach, his other hand holding a pair of short tweezers. "The name's Dabi now." "I don't care." You wiped your tears away and grabbed the cotton ball and the tweezers before gesturing for him to sit on one of the bar stool chairs. "I need an answer. You can't just..." You let out a tense breath. "Just show up here after all this time." He sat down on the bar stool and turned his wound towards you. "Fine, but I'm currently bleeding out, so maybe we should focus on that first." "Hey, princess." "Shut up." you muttered, nose scrunching up as you examined the wound. You assumed the bullet was still lodged in there somewhere, which meant you had to use the tweezers to get it out. You're lucky I care about you, or else I'd throw you back on the street. Even after all this time, huh? He said, looking at you as you slowly moved the tweezers toward the hole. I thought you'd be pissed as hell and punched me in the dick or something when I showed up here. Trust me, he replied, shoving the tweezers in the wound rather harshly before gripping the bullet and yanking it out, making him flinch and curse in pain. I am definitely pissed, and I will not hesitate to punch you in the dick. You placed the bloody bullet in the sink and quickly grabbed some gauze and cotton balls, wrapping the wound and creating pressure on it. You had to wrap your arms around his torso to properly secure the gauze and fought the urge to blush. I shouldn't be this close to a cocky, shirtless villain. He laughed but said nothing else as you finished tending to his wound and proceed to back away, putting your hands on your hips. Alright, I doubt you'll die. So now tell me what the hell is going on. You stood up from the chair and began heading back towards your bedroom. Let me take a shower first, then we'll talk. Blood at the ground. Fine, don't get blood on the white towels, moron. He turned back to flash you a stupid grin before opening your bathroom door and shutting it behind him. You sat on the love seat to wait and eventually heard the water kick on the master bathroom shower. It took another 15 minutes for it to kick off. You turned towards your room door, ready to scold him again for showing up out of the blue, but the words got caught up in your throat. He opened the door, a towel in his hands as you rubbed the water out of his hair, his lower half sporting a towel and nothing else. You tried your best not to pay attention to the way droplets of water rolled down his chest and made their way between each and every muscle before disappearing into the towel wrapped around his hips. You attempted not to notice how attractive his hair still was, despite being dyed black now, or how hot you still found him despite his new scars. They simply added more character to an already one-of-a-kind person, and you bit your cheek. God, why did I have to fall in love with him? And why am I still in love with him? His voice broke you from your thought. Are you done staring? I'm fucking freezing. You got any clothes that will fit me? You cleared the throat and patted her cheek in an attempt to quench the redness. In the bottom drawer of my dresser should be something. Just put your old clothes in the washer in the bathroom. He gave you a mock salute before walking back inside, a water puddle now on your floor from where he once stood. Standing up, you moved to your kitchen to grab a rag before wiping up the water, going to clean the blood off your entryway as well. After another 5 minutes, he walked out in a familiar pair of sweatpants and a band tee, a smirk on his face. You kept my clothes? Ah, shut up and sit down, you muttered, face flushed as he gestured to the couch across from the love seat you sat in. Okay, fine, he replied before heading to the love seat and picking you up bridal style, sitting down and proceeding to set you on his lap. There, you let out a vaguely offended nose, flustered. Hey! Just because we dated way back when we were teens doesn't mean you can come in here and pretend it like you didn't disappear for a couple of years. And why not? He replied, leaning back in the chair and wrapping his arms around your waist, pulling you against him. He was warmer than you, despite just taking a shower, and you assumed his quirk kept him rather hot. You shook your head in an attempt to lean forward, only to get pulled back once more. Because how do I know you were the same person you were back then? What happened, Zara? Last time I remember you were 19 and living with me. And then you suddenly vanished and never come back. You can't do things like that. The tears you shed in the kitchen returned full force, choking you up. I told you, your name's Dabi now. He mumbled, placing his chin on top of your head and letting out a sigh. And I have no excuses for what I've done. There's nothing I can say to change what happened. He took in a breath, his normally cocky exterior shattering, to reveal the true pain underneath. I'm sorry, princess. No, Ryan. I'm so fucking sorry. You heard his voice crack, and full drops hit the top of your head. Neither of you spoke, just letting out all the bottled up emotions of the past few years. Eventually, you managed to stop crying long enough to pull your head away from his chest and look him in the eyes. He was already looking at you. You reached up and gently cut his cheek, rubbing the purple skin which covered the lower half softly. Does it hurt? He shrugged. I'm used to it. You began to tear up again. Is this my fault? Did I push you over the edge? He immediately placed a hand atop yours, his other one hugging your waist tightly. No, you had nothing to do with this. It just... I snapped. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take him. He constantly reminded me I wasn't good enough. And I didn't... He heaved out a breath. I didn't deserve anything, much less someone like you. You knew exactly who he was. Toya. You used your other hand to hold a finger to his mouth. Shush. You will always be my Toya. He gave you a half-hearted smile which turned into a playful smirk. Your Toya? You flushed. Yeah, you never broke up with me, so technically we're still dating, and you're still my Toya. He let out a soft snort. God, I missed you, he muttered, rubbing his thumb against your hand before leaning forward. You moved the finger against his lip to cup his other cheek and copied his movements. Despite the roughness of his lips, the kiss was soft, and you could feel the old spark between you reignite. When you pulled away, his eyes were closed and he had a smile on his face. I missed that too, he laughed. The beeping of a cell phone brought you both out of the moment, and he looked towards his jacket, still hanging in the clothes rack. I never get that. It's probably that dick Shigaraki. Your expression dulled. Right, he's a villain now. He gathered you up in his arms before standing up and facing you back on the love seat. He trudged to his coat, pulled out a phone, and read the lit-up screen. He glanced at you. You looked at him. He turned away, typing out a response before heading back towards you. Are you leaving? You asked. Not yet, he replied, picking again to return to his original spot. I told him to shove it for now. Won't you get in trouble for that? I don't want you to get punished because of me, he said, voice now conveying her sadness. He shrugged and cuddled you closer, one of his hands reaching for the cup of coffee on the side of the table to take a sip. I don't care. I'd go through the worst of whatever the world has to offer to say like this, he said, voice honest and content, and sounding much like your Toya. The person before you now wasn't quite like the Toya you knew, nor the Dabi. He was an odd combination, but you didn't care. Your long-lost lover was now back, and that was good enough for you. Sure, it might be wrong to still be in love with him, despite all the awful shit he's done since he's been gone. But you can't help it. When you love someone, you never really get rid of that feeling. You closed your eyes and began to drift off. You sleep, but not before feeling a goodnight kiss against your forehead. You smiled. Yeah, definitely good enough for me.